Okay, guys, so today I want to start by we're going to go over a few things that make us unique. So I want everyone to take a few minutes to think about something that makes them unique, makes them different, that you can share with everyone. It can be anything physical about you, the way you look, your hair color, your eye color, places you've been, things you've done, just something about you, your personality, anything that makes you different or that you feel like makes you different from other people. Okay, so at this point, I would give them a few minutes to come up with something. It can be anything such as eye color, hair color, that they're nice, that they're kind, that they have 5 brothers and sisters, that they have 20 brothers and sisters, um, that they were originally from Jamaica, or, just something that they feel is different. And you can have an open discussion with the class for about 5-10 minutes. Then I would have the class pull out their genetic notebooks. So we're going to go do that real quick. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so we're going to get out our genetic notebooks today. Make sure you have your name on it in the bottom. You can manipulate them. You should have your link to this in your Google Classroom. You are going to follow along with the lesson and take notes. There are a few basic keys that you need to know about. Of course, there's the back button. So if you mess anything up, don't freak out. You can hit the back button and it will undo whatever you just did. You can also change your font, how it looks, if it's squiggly or straight across, the different fonts, the different sizes, bold, italicized, underline. You can even change the color. And of course, I want you to 100% change it to reflect you. I want you to make it your own. It can be cute, pretty, colorful, but I do want to make sure that you get the information. You will have time to go back and change it and make it your own at the end. So while we're going through the lesson, I want you to make sure that you go through and actually get the information, because you will need this and it is important. You can look in your table of contents. You have all the note pages, but you also have like blank note pages. There's about 12 blank note pages. And I want you to, throughout the lesson, yes, take the notes that I have on there that for you to fill in, but I also want you to take your own notes. Just put down information that you think is important, that you think you'd like to share with me and with the class, what you took away from the lesson as a whole. Okay, so at this point, I'd start the lesson, have them go through, but I just kind of wanted to stop for a second and show you what their notebook would look like. This is all in my PowerPoint in the lesson that I'm going to do, and they follow along. You can actually like manipulate, you can drag them, put them in the little thing, just drag and drop, fill in stuff, type in stuff, more drag and drop. And then of course at the end they have just like blank pages where they can just use it to type in whatever they want. Keynotes, they have actually 12 pages of that because I want them to have a lot of room to express themselves and just write down anything that they think is important. Okay, back to the lesson. All right, so these are our standards and our objectives. Our standard is heredity, inheritance, and variation of traits. We're going to distinguish between inherited characteristics and those characteristics that result from a direct interaction with the environment. Apply this concept by giving examples of characteristics of living organisms that are influenced by both inheritance and the environment. Okay, that's a bunch of words. That's a bunch of long words, and I know sometimes it's overwhelming. But basically, we're just going to be deciphering between or distinguishing between traits that you're born with, things that you come out of the womb and you already have, like your hair color and your eye color and your skin color, and stuff that you learn after you're born, such as being nice to people or learning to walk or ride a bike. We're just going to learn about the differences and the differences between what you inherit and what you acquire. So your objective is the student will be able to distinguish between inherited and acquired traits. So after this, you guys are going to be able to go home and say, I know that this is an inherited trait and I know this is an acquired trait. And your parents are going to be like, Y'all are smart. Y'all are just intelligent, which I'm sure they already are. Okay, so what is genetics? Genetics are the study of how features are passed from parents. Okay, so genetics are, the study of what gets passed from your parents. Heredity is the passing of traits and characteristics from parents to offsprings. So this is stuff that your parents pass to you. You inherit your like in my family, for example, we inherit blood clotting disorders. That's something that is passed down from generation to generation to generation. It's not something we choose or we learn after we're born. It's something that we get. Who is known as the father of modern genetics? So at this point, I'd let the students tell me if they knew, which most of them probably don't because I didn't even know who that was. It's Gregor Mendel. And I would also give them more time to, type in their little notes and stuff. But since I'm not really teaching anyone, I'm just going to skip ahead. DNA. Chromosome, a structure that carries all the genetic information or the DNA of an organism. Gene, all the DNA that makes up one trait. And the DNA is a chain of genetic instructions from the parents. So your chromosome carries the DNA, okay? The gene is all the DNA that makes up a trait. And then the DNA is a chain of genetic instructions from the parents. Fill that in. Okay, so your dominant versus your recessive genes. A dominant gene is the gene from one parent that is seen on the offspring. So if your parents had brown eyes and green eyes, and you had brown eyes, then that means that is the dominant gene because you got that from one of your parents. Okay. And a recessive gene is the gene from one parent that is not seen on the offspring. So again, if one of your parents had brown eyes, the other one had green eyes, and you had brown eyes, the green eyes would be recessive because that's not on you. The offspring, you as a child did not get that gene. So that would be a recessive gene. Recessive, blue eyes are recessive, green eyes are recessive, and brown eyes are dominant. Parents and offspring. Parents are the mother and father of an organism. Offspring, an organism's children's, pups or cubs, etc. So you are the offspring of your parents. Why do children resemble their parents? So why do you guys think that you look like your parents? Again, I would give students time to bounce off ideas. Because they receive DNA from their parents that gives them similar traits. Sorry, my kids are like tearing the house down, apparently. Traits. A trait is a characteristic. A physical trait is a trait that can be seen. Okay, so a physical trait is something that someone can see on you. Like they can look at you and say, okay, this is a physical trait. A non-physical trait is a trait that cannot be seen. Here are some examples of physical traits. The little man on the video or on the slide, he has no hair, he has fair skin, he has brown eyes, he's tall, and he's a man. We can tell all of this information by looking at him. So that is a physical trait. What we can look and see with our eyes is a physical trait. Non-physical traits. This is stuff that if we were just walking down the street and we looked at this man right here and we wouldn't know any of this without him telling us or us, being around him and knowing his personality. We would, that he likes sports, that he's funny, hard worker, plays piano, easily distracted. You would not know that by looking at him. Non-physical traits are something that you cannot see. They cannot be seen with the eyes. Inherited versus acquired. Oops. Hold on one second. Pause. Okay. Inherited versus acquired traits. Inherited traits are traits that came from parents through DNA, such as your hair, your eyes, your skin color, your tongue roll, height, dimples, freckles, stuff that, came from your parents that was inherited. Acquired traits are traits that are learned or given after birth, such as language, sports ability, music ability, scars, illness, etc. Now, language can also come from your parents, such as like if your parents speak Spanish and you're around that, then you will probably speak Spanish, but it's not an inherited trait. You don't come out knowing how to speak that. You're taught that. So it's something that it's acquired. Instinct versus learned. So inherited behaviors are behaviors organisms are born knowing, and learned behaviors are behaviors organisms learn after birth. So inherited behaviors are like crying, breathing, birds migrating south for the winter, bears hibernating during the winter. That's something that is instinct. It's inherited. It's something that you are born, or an animal organism is born knowing that that's what they do. Learned behaviors are talking, walking, lion cubs learning to hunt by watching their mom hunt. Bright colored animals are usually poisonous. You learn this by being taught that. This is stuff that you don't just come out knowing. You're not born knowing. You have to learn this from either your parents or teachers, whoever. You have to learn these types of behaviors. Okay, so now I want you to show me what you know. So we have filled out our journals, and I'm also going to let y'all share real quick with me some important key factors or information that you wrote down in your notebooks that you think is important. So at this point, we would take a few minutes. Students would share with me things that they took away from the lesson that they thought was important other than what they had to fill out. Okay, so after they share that, okay, so we're going to go to our test. Okay, so this is the genetics quiz. So y'all will go through, there's 10 questions, and you're going to read the question, or the action, the trait, the whatever. And you're going to tell me if it's inherited behavior or learned behavior, or if it's an inherited trait or acquired trait. And I will give y'all a few minutes to go through and answer those questions for me. Okay, so at this point, the students would go through and answer the quiz, and of course, it's on Google Forms, and the answers would just come back to me on the little Google thing. But basically, that's the lesson. Some modifications or accommodations that you could make were I could read the questions, like the quiz questions and answers aloud to them, or for their digital notebook, instead of them filling it out throughout the lesson, I could give them like an already pre-filled copy that has the notes in there. Frequent breaks, longer time to complete the quiz, have access to shorter quiz version, are be encouraged to take more notes. They can also do a trait project, or they can actually do a research project on Gregor Mendel, who was the founder of genetic, or he was something about genetics that we put in there. But thanks. I hope y'all like my lesson.